Hello, and today I'm taking a look at another science fiction role-playing game called Mothership. As the title here says, a sci-fi horror RPG from, it says there, Tuesday Night Games. Interesting idea. The first thing I'll point out is it says down the bottom here, Player's Survival Guide. This is not part of a 3-book deal. This is a one-and-done game. So you buy this book, you've got the rules system. So I feel like it's kind of misnamed, or perhaps they intended to have like a referee's guide at some point, but I've never seen it if they've ever gone that far. I've never seen any notification of that, so I don't think that was their intent. This is the game. Okay, so let's take a look at this piece of art on the cover, because when I first saw this, I said to myself, this looks like a cheap cover, a cheap production. And to be honest, I was a little put off. I mean, it's very black and white. The whole cover is black and white. It wasn't the glossy sort of front cover piece that I would expect to see. But having read through the game, now I've never played this. I have seen it played. I've watched a live playthrough, but I've not taken part. And I think this piece of art sets the tone that they're looking for, because they are saying this is horror, and that seems to be the emphasis here. So if you look at this image, I think it sets the tone quite right, because clearly it's a science fiction image, but you notice all the detail is on the horror. The actual sci-fi bit, like the rest of this man's vac suit, spacesuit, is sort of washed out. It's the horror that is the main focus here, and I found that quite interesting when I realised what this game was all about. So this guy's, you know, he's just laying there, his chest exploded, his guts have fell out, and he's got the radio there, and he's just thinking, you know, I was going to call my mum. Anyway, things went wrong. And that's what this game's all about. Horrible things happening. Again, it's another one of these games where it's set in the ass end of space. It's your, what's the motif? It's heavy industrial. It's aliens, but not the beginning of the film, more sort of the latter half, where things have already gone wrong. That's where you are with this game. So this is a table of weapons, as you can see, and obviously combat shotgun, you've got a cost, how much damage. This is a D100 type game, you know, you shoot to hit, roll D100. So here's your damage points. A critical, you can knock them down with it. It's got range bands, pretty usual sort of RPG stuff. So there's a whole variety of weapons here that you can pick up, but let's skip past the index here. So character generation. This takes a pretty exciting, to me at least, approach to generating characters. So you're going to try to survive in the most inhospitable environment in the universe, which the vacuum of space and those little bubbles of air that we create for ourselves. And as it says here, you design your character right from the character sheet. Now, normally a character sheet is just, you know, blank boxes to be filled in, but that's not the case here. So now they've turned it sideways, but there's a character sheet. It's actually like 2 pages, but let's zoom to the back of the book where they lay it out for you. Okay, so here's the start of a character sheet. You start off, as it says here, you've got number 1. First thing you do is you roll up your stats, which from memory is 66. And that becomes a percentile score here. Follow the dotted line round to number 2. You pick a class, and the classes are Teamster, Android, Scientist, or Marine. So you've got 4 basic roles. There's nothing stopping the Teamster also being a pilot, by the way. So, you know, you could be a Teamster who's running the tug, you know, and getting cargo up and down. So these aren't strict classes. Okay, I need to skip to the second sheet, which is part 3 here, where you mark your starting skills. So you get a number of points that you can spend to buy skills. And you can see this is actually a skill tree. So when you pick a skill, you tick at the box. And you can see how this second expert level of skills have requirements of lower level skills. So to get to jury rigging, you have to have scavenging. And jury rigging also requires that you have piloting, an odd mix, and it requires you have 0G for asteroid mining. So basically you can build up your skills, and each level of skill costs a number of points, as it says down the side here. you gain XP in the game as well. So supposing you do survive your first adventure, you'll have more XP to buy more skills with. So let's shoot back to the top. Go back down again. Okay, there's a character sheet. Okay, rolling the dice, it's basically percentile, but they've pulled that sort of D20 feel, D20 system feel, as in the referee can give you advantage, meaning you roll your percentile dice twice and take the best result. And obviously, if you've got advantage, there's also disadvantage as well. So, for instance, armour, you have an armour save. So if you get shot, you get an armour save. If you're behind cover at the time, you get a bonus to your armour save. You get an advantage to your armour save. So, okay, when you roll doubles on your percentile dice, that's basically a critical, which means you're going to do more damage and have side effects. Whenever you make a stat check and you have a relevant skill, you add your skill bonus to the stat. So, stat plus skill. That's what we'd expect. I don't know if you noticed, but on the character sheet, you've got like the first column of skills are all 10% bonuses. So you get 10% to your stat. And the middle column gave you a higher bonus. Okay, so we've got a whole list of the skills here. Oh, right, they're laying out. So yeah, if you've got an expert, that's a 15% bonus. If you're a master, it's a 20% bonus. Okay, saves. You got saves for sanity and fear, your body, which is your hit points, and your armour. So sanity is your ability to explain away the logical inconsistencies in the universe, to rationalise and make sense out of the chaos. And fear is how well you cope with emotional trauma. I think I'll point out here, sanity isn't, or perhaps I should say insanity, isn't always triskaidekaphobia. Insanity can be your brain dysfunctioning. And by that I mean you've probably all seen videos of people standing in front of a lava coming towards them, and they just seem frozen, or a herd of bulls suddenly appear out of nowhere. And what that is the human brain is struggling to cope. We live our daily lives using our brain as already modelled reality. So you use that model for catching a ball as it flies towards you. You're not calculating everything. You're using the models you've built up in experience to understand how that ball moves. And that applies to how cars move. It applies to how you expect your kettle to move. Everything in your life is already pre-modelled. So when something unexpected happens, that's why people freeze. That's why they do things that seem insane. So, for instance, let's say some Cthulhu pops into the middle of your spaceship. That's why people don't just scream and run away, which might be a sensible thing to do. They'll do weird things, like they'll go and open a window. Now, why are you opening a window? It doesn't make sense. What's happening is that their mind has been shocked from its normal paradigm, and it's trying to find something else to do, something that will resolve the issue. So somewhere there's some sort of neural connection between Cthulhu appearing and opening a window. Although maybe it's something to do with the gas that surrounds Cthulhu that's triggered the should open a window sort of concept. Anyway, this game sort of takes that kind of approach. If you fail a sanity check, you go and you make a fear check, and rather than just going insane and becoming the referee's bitch, as it were, there's these... hang on, let me see if I can find it. It's easier to show you. I'll get there in a second. Okay, so hit locations. D10, roll to see where you get hit. Vitally important. You get hit in your face mask, you're not going to patch it up too easily. Damage is subtracted from your health. Have I passed the sanity? I'm wondering about that now. Automatic weapons. So, yeah, there's lots of weapons in this game. You saw that chart at the beginning. Now we've got some pictures. And again, I love the impressionistic style they've got here. It's like that cover image. They've used, like, it looks to me very much like felt tip colouring. Combat shotguns, every type of pistol you like. I just love the aesthetic of it anyway. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so we got a nice list of equipment. You're not just limited to purchasing equipment. Obviously, you might have to nip down to stores and get it if that's how your game's operating. But you also get a starting loadout. Oh, and there we go. You get a starting loadout as well, which is a bunch of equipment that you'll get. So if you're a station security officer, you're going to get an appropriate loadout for that security officer. Also for your character, you can get trinkets. Trinkets don't necessarily have an effect on the game, but there's something to make your character more real. So, for instance, what if I highlighted here? It's got a stress ball that reads 0 stress in 0G. So your character can just keep, you can have your character squeezing that every time there's a stressful situation coming up. You can build up little character moments using the trinkets associated. Patches. Everybody has patches sewn onto their jackets. That's a science fiction trope. Even on the Nostromo, they had that sort of thing. So, again, you can roll a D100 and pick what patch you want. So, like a dove in the crosshairs. That's a bit mean, I thought. Anyway, dove, peace, but it's in the crosshairs? Bit dodgy. Mercenaries. Now, there's a few pages in this, 44 pages in this PDF, and there's quite a few pages relating to mercenaries. Mercenaries are NPCs that you hire to take along with you and hopefully allow your character to live a bit longer. There's different ways of arming them. There's like NPC stats, and they're basically going to be, as it says here, the scum. They're going to be the ones you put in the front row and at the back. The front and the back are always the most dangerous place. Okay, so you're hiring mercenary. What are their motivations? Well, it may not just be money. They're hunting down a mining magnate. No, why are they doing that? I don't know. But they've got on the spaceship. They've gone out into space because they want to find that guy. So that can make NPCs quite interesting. Okay, gaining stress. Okay, stress is part of the sanity and fear mechanics. Every time something goes wrong, you want to add some stress to the character. So anytime the ship takes a hit from, they take a stress. Getting knocked unconscious, you take a stress. Going a long time without rest, you take a stress. Going without food and water, you take a stress. So pretty much anything in the standard science fiction trope is going to cause some degree of stress. Whether it's, the bathroom not being where it should be, or an alien popping out of a vent. All these things cause stress. There's ways of relieving stress, mostly R&R. Eventually, stress, damage, and emotional wear and tear will bring you to your breaking point, and this is where the fun really begins. And you start making panic checks, and this is what I was getting on with how people model the universe. So, panic effects. If you fail your tests and you move into a panic, you can roll here to get different types of effect, like psychotic. Immediately attack the closest crew member, whether that's another PC or an NPC, doesn't matter. Psychological collapse, that's bad. Heart attack, instant death, so obviously avoid 30 plus if you can. Crippling fear, a new permanent phobia, so obviously your mind's been kicked out of a loop and it doesn't process properly. Anxious, you gain another stress, making you have more panic checks later on. Nervous twitch. Now, nervous twitch, that isn't necessarily just a twitch of the eye. Twitch can be anything behavioural. Reloading your gun, pulling the magazine out, checking the ammunition again. It can be very OCD, for instance. That can be considered a twitch, so you might not be able to go through a door without opening and shutting it twice, just to make sure, So you want to be loading up stress on the players when they're playing. You want to get them into these states to keep everything moving and keep it interesting. The majority of your time on Mothership will be spent aboard spaceships. Now, there's rules for how spaceships work here. There's you can build a ship, you can buy a ship. So I scroll down here. Different types of ship, it gives their stats here. And much like a character sheet for your player character, they've got a similar thing for spaceships as well. You can go through writing out the stats on the sheets. Again, there's a blank one of those here as well. You select the modules that you're going to have on your ship, but there isn't any sort of building mechanism as such. So you basically list everything that's on your ship. You can just write out what's on there and then draw your maps. So the ship could be any shape you want. It's in space after all. Okay, is there anything else particularly interesting here? Yep, we've got rules for ship-to-ship combat as well as PC combat. Experience points I touched on earlier. assuming your character survives, and I wouldn't expect your character to necessarily survive, you'll get some XP, and a whole bunch of different ways of getting XP. But then when you have enough XP, you can go on and make class-based changes or skill-based changes. And here, each time you progress a level, you can see you need more and more experience points to progress to the next level. I'd be very surprised if anybody ever reached level 10, unless, of course, you've got a very, very lenient referee. What can you do when you level up? Well, I've said skills. You can also do your stats. You can also improve your saves. You can get resolve. You can remove phobias and addictions. So through your panic attacks, your sanity dropping, you get those phobias, addictions, you get those twitches I was talking about. You can start removing them as you go up levels. And if you ever wanted to reach those higher levels, I think you probably would have to. Otherwise, your character would become almost unplayable. So here's a blank sheet for the ship. Getting to the bottom of the PDF now. There's the character sheet I showed you earlier. This is it says a player's cheat sheet, but it's everybody's cheat sheet. Your referee's going to use this as well, explaining all the basic mechanisms of the game. And I love this flowchart for how you do combat. It's a brilliant idea. Okay, and that's the end of the PDF. So 44 pages, packed with information. And don't be misguided by player's survival guide. This is the rules, okay? There's no scenario in here, but I'm not sure if I will do a video on some of the scenarios that I've bought for Mothership, but the scenarios tend to come in short PDFs, but they are packed with detail. For instance, A Pound of Flesh. It's a horrible title for a scenario, but it is jam-packed. The pages are not just listings of text. It's hard to explain. I probably will have to do a video on that one. But it is packed with information, locations and characters and things for you to do. Horrible locations, I might add, where horrible things are happening, as you would want in your horror RPG. Anyway, that's Mothership. I think it's well worth purchasing, even if you're just going to harvest ideas from it. If you don't play the game itself, have a look at that sanity system. That's easily transportable into other games, perhaps Traveller or Cepheus Engine, for instance. All right, that's it. Mothership. See you next time. Bye.